Hi, my name is Korie Minkus, and I am the author of the #1 best-selling book, Be, From Passion and Purpose to Product and Prosperity. And I am the co-host of the live weekly podcast on a private Facebook forum called The Writing of the Book, for women, by women, experiences of ascension and growth. We have 10,300 women strong as of today. I am the founder and CEO of Rock Your Product. We are the #1 global product business advisory and growth training company. And in my episode for the Business Growth Architect Show, I will share how to create new verticals of business growth. I'll reveal revenue multipliers and expand your business ability to deeply impact and leave a legacy.
Hello, fabulous person. Beate Chelette here, the Growth Architect. Welcome back to the Business Growth Architect Show, where we bring you cutting-edge business strategies from some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, business transformation experts, and visionaries who want to help you to scale your impact. Look for one tangible strategy that you can take back and implement right away. And now back to our guest.
And welcome, everyone. This is Beate, your host of the Business Growth Architect Show. And today we have power in the house, product power. Today with me is Korie Minkus from Rock Your Product. And we're going to be talking about stuff that you guys may have wished you would have thought about it a whole lot earlier when we're done with this interview. Korie, I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here and look forward to the next 30 minutes together.
Excellent. So, Korie, for somebody who doesn't know who you are or what it means to rock your product, will you tell them who you are and what you do, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's my pleasure. So, first of all, rocking your product is about, really rocking your business, and it can mean so many different things to the various business owners that I work with. But just to give you a little bit background of myself, I am absolutely an advocate for entrepreneurship. I believe in business ownership and the idea of evolving yourself in some dynamic way to create impact and growth. So, huge advocate for that. I am the CEO and founder of Rock Your Product, and we are the #1 global product business advisory and growth training company. Which is exciting what we do. And we do it from a very boutique-y experience, right? Like large consulting on a smaller scale. And for 30 years, I worked with Fortune 500 consumer products thought leaders. And I worked from a global brand strategist to an international speaker. And of course, I'm a best-selling author, which I'm very proud over, two-time #1 best-selling author. And so, my focus has been really providing sequence and clarity and results in the relationships I've had with business owners globally. I was featured in USA Today and Success Magazine, Forbes, and Condé Nast, over the last couple of years, really in the growth systems, the mechanisms, and the processes in which have really helped me to generate billions of dollars in revenue for my clients, along with launching hundreds of products globally to really scale brand impact. So yeah, it's been a really fun journey. And I feel like in some ways, even though it's 30 plus years, I'm just getting started. So it never ends.
Ever evolving. And I want, and please, everybody pay attention. It said a B. It didn't say millions. It said the word B, billions. So very, very powerful. So, Korie, let's dive into this. So typically when I think about productization, right, then I would say, oh, so you help people to put out more products. And that is only partially correct. Tell me why.
Well, so I think what's beautiful for the entrepreneurs listening today and the business owners who are here investing in your program and learning through the techniques that you put out is that sometimes there's those podcasts we listen to that just kind of light a fire, right? Like ignite a thought that we didn't have around our business. And so what I love about what I do is I help entrepreneurs really kind of have this mind-blowing growth opportunity that is really beyond the scope of what, we do every day, right? We're in our business every day, we're grinding, we're doing what we're brilliant at, or what we feel our passion is around to create the biggest impact. But the idea that you can actually create or architect growth in various channels of distribution throughout the way that you impact your audience, right? We call them raving fans. Once you've attracted an audience and you have raving fans, how can you optimize the experience of working with those customers? And so for our service providers who are saying, how do I create a deeper relationship with my customers? How do I create a differentiation? How do I possibly service my customers more than I am today? There's that opportunity to think outside the box, right? We hear about serial entrepreneurship, and many of us say, well, what does that really mean? Well, what it really means is that as an entrepreneur, you have the privilege to be able to focus on different ways to service the market. And so what I really work with clients and understanding is how to differentiate themselves through creating new product ideas that will then satisfy the current marketplace that they're targeting. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. And the reason I asked the question the way I did is because I think that, and one of the reason, really the reason I wanted you to be on the show was that, myself included, when I first saw products, I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing. And then when we did our prep for this interview, suddenly my whole brain exploded, because typically, especially in the consulting, coaching, and expert space, people go online product, online program, guided online program, mini course,
Digital,
masterclass.
all digital.
It's all digital. And then you said, but wait, there is more. What is there more?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful question for so many. And of course, I know you have this gamut of service providers that you work with, and each of those service providers have great expertise in their discipline, whether they are, beauty stylists, or whether they're, interior designers, or whether they're, some kind of practitioner in a certain way, or whether they're just a business coach. And I don't mean just a business coach, many of us are business coaches and we're very successful at what we do, but there's opportunities to figure out how to capitalize on creating more opportunity for your customers, because if they're buying services from you, or they're investing in services with you, then they obviously trust you. They trust your judgment, they trust your perception on things, they trust your ability to be able to create a better outcome for them. But one of the opportunities that we see with service providers is that many of them are getting into this kind of trifecta experience. And you mentioned it in terms of digital programming. Some are getting into AI experiences, so that online experience. But the trifecta is service, technology, and physical product. A perfect customer, or a perfect example of that would be somebody like Peloton. Most of us know the Peloton exercise equipment and bikes and things like that. And Peloton not only offers a service of fitness, but they offer the technology of their systems, and then they offer the physical products of their mechanical machines, right, or their weights and things like that. And so they've said, hey, if we're going after this audience of someone who's interested in physical fitness and health and exercising their body, what are all the verticals in which we can actually support that target audience? And they're expanding their product beyond just services into all of these different verticals that will then cause the customer to have more opportunity to buy from them, right? Because there's a really strong possibility your clients actually want more from you, and you're not giving them as much as they can grasp, because they want to invest in growth, whether it's personal growth, business growth, whatever that growth is. they want to invest in that, and they want to have that experience in working with you. So does that kind of give you a shape a little bit more the direction?
Yes, exactly. Because you said the key word here, you said vertical. And so you're telling me that one part of working with you then is really understanding my buyer. And so now I know my buyer. I am in my world of my trifecta of what I understand. And then I create this. Now, it's easy for me to say, well, Peloton, of course they're going to put out, fitness wear and biking shoes, because that would be a perfect vertical. But if I think about this from a different perspective, from their competitor, Schwinn or whatever, Nordic Trek or whatever there is, they don't do that. So, or they don't do it at that large scale and at that kind of level. So let's say now I'm listening to this interview, I'm going, this is brilliant, Korie. How do I even start now to go, that sounds great, but am I going to make t-shirts? Do people want growth architect socks? Do I do baseball hats? Or that sounds a little gimmicky. So, I know that, what's her name? Sharon Lecter did the board game, about finance, and that just blew up, and that just changed absolutely everything. So how do I train my brain to now think outside a box that I don't even know existed that I'm in?
Right. So there's a great question. And there's the natural connections, right? Like, I love the example of when I went to get my hair cut and I spent $100 getting my hair cut. But before I left the salon, I spent another $400 on products, right? Shampoos, conditioners, skincare, all those things. So actually they made complete fast multipliers on me as a customer of theirs from taking me from service into physical products. And then there's the things that are probably less obvious, right? So a client of mine was actually certifying people through certain testing requirements that they needed for their professional acumen, right? So they actually were taking them through the testing process and prepping them. And she created an entire line of tools that the students then purchased and used to help them through that process, everything from a calculator to note cards to workbooks to a diary of how to study for the test, so how to pace out their study process. I mean, there's all these different things. People have even thought about creating like water water thermoses so that people stay hydrated through the experience. So it's starting to get really creative around, based on what you're servicing your client for, how can you offer them the physical products in their life that are going to support them? So, there's basic ideas. Like, for example, I have a client who is a consultant, and she created an entire line of products to make you more productive in your office. Everything from a product for your back to sit up with better posture, to tools that stimulate your muscles in your body so that while you're sitting all day and working, you can create the creative mind thought. She created hydration tablets that allowed the clients of hers to actually become, stay hydrated and be very thoughtful in their experience during the day. So it really depends on what you have. And then I have clients who, go down their passion project route, right? Everyone has a home. So, some will go into interior design and, either different kinds of artwork or sound deafening earbuds or things like that actually could create a different experience. Beautiful cushions for their office. I mean, there's the gamut of creating physical products is really broad. And what I think is really important, I mean, I work a lot with people who are practitioners too, right, who are specializing in certain areas of their business, and they often will develop products that are an offshoot of things that they use in their professional services that they then can sell in a more mass approach or through the professional channel. But one of the things to consider and think about is you don't actually have to be the inventor of these products. One of the things that stops people is they think, well, I have to have this brilliant idea, I have to have it patented, and it has to be this this multi-layered, super proprietary item. What actually really breaks people through this experience is understanding that optimally, when you launch product, you're actually borrowing product from other products in the marketplace that are already successful. You don't have to convince or educate someone on how to use them necessarily, as much as because you are the conduit to that consumer. Again, they've built that trust and reliability with you and your brand. You then can make recommendations of products. You can private label them under your name, right? You can private label them under your company's name, but you don't actually have to be the inventor of those products. And I think that's what really, you talk about the t-shirts or, the coffee mugs or the hats or the tote bags that have your branding on them. Those are the most foundational or fundamental ways to start to expand your brand knowledge. But there's actually ways you can get into a deeper relationship with people through other physical products.
I like this a lot. If I think about this, right? So my brain's not going 100 miles an hour. So I'm thinking about this. Yes. I mean, so we get the swag because we want, I had my boxes printed because I got to the point where I felt that, when somebody invests in strategy or signature growth systems and they, spend several $1,000s on this, that the experience needs to be a good experience. I once invested like $8,000 in a program and I got a mug. And I remember I looked at the mug and I'm like going, seriously, $8,000 get me a mug? So I feel that there is a thought process, which is what I'm hearing from you to say, think about how you can take them deeper. So there's a part which is just the obvious, the swag, right? So now I can say, okay, for people that maybe can't afford my products, maybe I can sell some of these things as a simple add-on. I remember when I published my book, Happy Woman, Happy World, and I had a journal that I had made. And then one day I'm like, well, I'm just going to offer it as a bundle. I was shocked how many people bought the journal with it. I mean, I was almost shocked. And they're like, well, this kind of goes hand in hand. And I made twice as much money. Actually, I made more money on the journal than I did on the book. So that was probably an accidental exploration into this. And then you say, so take it deeper. So what's the thought process? Like the first thing that came to mind when you were speaking, Korie, I was like, I would love to do a set of strategic cards, teaching people how to understand strategy or, strategy kind of deck of some sort, but I have no idea what that would look like. But I had this idea. How do I take these ideas and then put them together? Am I going to call you? Am I going to, say, Korie, you need to help me on this? Can I figure this out myself? How do we get people to really understand this vertical expansion piece, which I think is outside of our comfort zone?
Yeah. I think it's a great question in terms of where do I start, right? And, I have service providers that I work with. I have a gal who's an expert in branding and marketing, and actually we're launching a hair care line. So sometimes it doesn't have to be necessarily directly correlated to your business. And that's something that, each entrepreneur needs to decide. I find that, most of the time when I talk to people, I was even talking to my son's ACT tutor today, and she said, I have these ideas around these products I want to launch. So I want to get back to you and talk to you about that. Well, she's an ACT tutor, right? She college preparation. So I feel like everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people, particularly entrepreneurs that are creatively thinking and looking at how they can impact other human lives, constantly have ideas that are coming up. So whether they're a direct vertical in correlation to your business, or whether there's something that's ancillary to something that you really have a passion around launching a product around, either way, that's what I do every day, right? And so kind of to answer your question as a first step, one of the things to consider, and kind of that first, I have this like 12-step process I work with for brands that are just launching products from the beginning. And one of the first things that's really critical for entrepreneurs to consider and think about is, particularly those in your audience that already probably have an audience of people, again, who they've built trust with and a relationship with, is to actually talk to your audience. And it almost sounds counterintuitive because we always think we should be the brilliant ones, right? Particularly in consulting or coaching, we should be the ones that are the experts. But in reality, in creating a good rapport with your customers and understanding their needs or their relationship to the ideas that you have around the product that you want to launch, it actually can expand your mind in ways that you didn't even realize was possible. And they actually can have solutions and ideas that can help you to actually bring this to fruition. Okay. So the first step is to understand what is it that you think your customers need and want, and then to go have some conversations with them and experience their reaction to those things. So that's number one. Number two is that the reality is that there are very few truly unique ideas in the market today. I mean, there really are. I mean, there's some, but they're really reserved for a very small percentage of businesses that are launching extraordinarily unique ideas. And that's cool. And I love working with patented products and, super innovative thinkers. But the problem with high innovation is that there's getting people immersed into the experience of what you're trying to get them to understand is really more complex, right? I mean, educating people, moving them through a process of understanding how this product would change their life is more complex than selling something that somebody would understand what to do with. And so I often guide entrepreneurs through understanding that, particularly as coaches or business owners in general, we sometimes think that we're on an island. Especially, you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, a lot of us develop digital assets that we use to extend out and reach out to our customers. But in reality, when you get into the world of physical product, you're actually in the world of other physical products. And so kind of like in coaching, who your competition is, or who's in your industry. It's kind of similar in physical products, and that is to start to understand the category of product that you want to be part of. So every product has a category, like, kind of a solar system around them of experiences that are going on, everything from competitive product to like-minded product. And then there's a psychology and a system to how consumers are buying those products. And so one of the things I take my clients through is understanding how to, what I say, get off their island, which, is a nice place to be on a beautiful island, but actually to step off the island and understand the category as a whole. And there's all these criteria to the category and understanding it so that they can be better knowledgeable about how to create a product. And then, of course, most importantly, brand that product to connect back to the customer's needs, but by using what already is in the market to create that outcome. So I hope that it didn't get too complex or deep, but it's really understanding what's around us and maybe taking those blinders off in some way, not so that we get threatened by competition. Look, there's people that knock off people all the time and are more successful than the 10 people that tried it before them, right? So it's not to intimidate anyone in any stretch, but it's actually to be more versed, right? To be educated and to leverage, here's the important key, to leverage other people's success and other people's mistakes in the way that they are connecting with the consumer and the brand with the product. So that's the step that's really critical at the beginning, is talk to your customers, understand what their needs are and how your product ideas will satisfy those outcomes. And then number two is to really get off your island and start to create an understanding of the greater category of product that you're playing in, so you can differentiate, stand out, and really have a very proud experience of why you're standing behind this particular product for your market.
That's so powerful. And we will be right back with more with Korie Minkus on rocking your product right after this message. Thank you so much for listening to the show. This is Beate, the Growth Architect. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for your time. Have you ever wondered why your business is not growing as quickly as you would like it to be? Well, you may have a business growth blocker. And if you'd like to find out what that business growth blocker is, go and take our brand new quiz at
growthblockerquiz.com. And in only a few minutes, you're not just going to find out what that blocker is, but also what to do about it. Again, go to growthblockerquiz.com. And now back to the show.
This just blows my mind. Because now what my brain is doing, Korie, after you shared with us the steps that you lead your clients to, now I'm trying to figure out on my own, what are these categories? Can you give us maybe like 2 or 3 examples of what some of these categories are so we can have our listeners sort of understand what that concept of a product category even means?
Oh, sure. You mean in terms of describing product category? Okay, so let me break this down a little bit. So product category would be things like, the way I try to help people visualize it is, think about when you go into a grocery store, okay? And you walk through the aisles of a grocery store. And since we all do that, we can relate to the fact that there's an aisle for cereals, and there's an aisle for condiments, and there's an aisle for cookies, and there's an aisle for frozen goods, right? And so when you walk through the grocery store, actually that grocery store is set up categorically for a consumer to shop in that category. Can you imagine walking into a grocery store and, you know, the candy bars are sitting next to the deodorant? Like, it would be a really confusing way for consumers to shop. So in consumers' minds, when they're going to purchase something, and consumer psychology is something that we tie into launching products, they have to understand how the product that you're launching aligns with the other products that are in the market, right? Because the reality is a consumer is going to shop a market typically for different things. However, your influence on why your product is possibly same or better than anything else in the market really comes from that experience that you've created of influence with your market, right? So that's why the beautiful thing is, if you're a service provider and you already have raving fans who love what you're doing, it's not that hard to sell them something else. I mean, many of your coaches or consultants have probably experienced that, right? We can pretty quickly resell our current clients or those that are in our hemisphere another product opportunity, because they're going, well, we trust you, we know you, we like you, and so if you're recommending it, we take it in. So the categories are to start to understand and break down, where does the product idea that I have, in terms of where does it fall in terms of a category? And again, if you think of it like a grocery store, now not every product that someone's going to launch is going to fall into a grocery store, but again, it gives you the idea of a visual of understanding that category. Then within that category, there very well could be what we would consider good, better, best scenarios. You've probably heard that. And for many of your service providers, they probably have good, better, best services that they offer, right? The full experience of working with us versus a partial experience working with us. So in physical products, it's somewhat the same. And you have to understand, what do consumers perceive as a good, better, best in that category, so that you can then design your product to fall into one of those opportunities for the consumer to absorb it, right? We got to make it easy for them to understand what they're purchasing.
Yeah. I think this makes a lot of sense. This really helps. I think the example that you gave with the grocery store, makes sense. And I just got back from Iceland, and the minute you go to Iceland and you realize that they call it Iceland because it's a lot of land with a lot of ice on it, and it's very, very cold, you hit the first store because you need warmer clothes. So it's an easy sell. So needless to say, the main drag, and that makes a lot of sense when you talk about the psychology of sales, that it literally is souvenirs and clothes on the main drag. I mean, that's all there is. And food, of course. There is nothing else. There's like one weird decorating store, which makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, the galleries. But it's very clearly defined as to what my psychology is. When I arrive at going to the town center, I'm going to be cold. I'm going to need to eat. I'm going to need to drink. And I'm going to need souvenirs for my family, right? So if I can train myself to think that way as a business owner, and we obviously can't do this in one podcast interview. We would have to, talk to you a lot more, and we don't, and 30 years of experience certainly don't fit in 30 minutes of a podcast. But I think the challenge to say, what would I need to provide my clients that give them a better, deeper experience. And one example comes to mind. I was on the podcast of a woman that works, that's all about focus and ADHD and entrepreneurial ADD and dealing with all that. And what did she do? She does calendars and to-do lists that are specifically designed for people who have ADD to keep them organized and on track. And now that I've spoken to you, it makes perfect sense to me, because that would be normal, that if I have a consultant that's specialized in helping me focus, that they then have the products that help me focus. So if I'm a strategic consultant or coach, then it would make sense that I maybe come up with something that helps people to understand strategy better and make it easy, or help them get started on mapping out these types of strategies. Am I getting this right?
100%, right. And again, products can be, digital as well as they can be physical, but really what we're talking about is creating physical products and being able to create multipliers in your own business. Because here's the other beautiful thing about physical products. If you create a physical product that is actually consumable in some capacity, then it is likely that they would come back and automatically buy that product from you again. So when you talk about, we know the word SaaS, right? People come back and they buy the systems month after month. So if you think about the product that someone can buy month after month from you, what are the types of things that you could do on some kind of automated system? Maybe it's vitamins, maybe it's supplements, maybe it's, collagen powders. I mean, anything that is going to make your clients feel brighter, stronger, smarter. Particularly if you're coaching business owners, they have to be out speaking and, articulating who they are and being on podcasts and, all the things that they need. And so think about what they need. And I will tell you, I think the biggest thing that I love to really kind of hit home with is strike to be authentic, right? Be authentically aligned with your audience and really listen to their brilliance of what they need. Because sometimes when you stop and you just listen, you find where those strategic opportunities are to step into a place where there's a white space in the market that you can fill for your customers.
Well said. I mean, this is unbelievably powerful. So, Korie, for somebody who now has heard this and says, I must speak to you and learn more about what you do, where would we send them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to speak to them. So they can write me at support. So just the word support at rockyourproduct.com. And they can also find me on my website at www.rockyourproduct.com as well. So, in today's day and age, we have a million different ways to connect, but whatever is easiest for them between those two opportunities would be great.
Yes, and as I said, and I know you are you're widely published and you're all over, so make sure you look up Korie Minkus, check out her book, and all the other things that you've done. I've been just so impressed with the depth of your knowledge and your willingness and generosity to share that. This has been an absolute honor to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me and certainly look forward to supporting you and your community going forward.
Thank you so much. And there you have it. So make it all about figuring out what passive income you can create through vertical expansion and products. And do look up Korie. And until we talk next time, and goodbye. And that's it for us today. Thank you for listening and watching the Business Growth Architect Show. I enjoyed having you here. And for accountability, just take one of the strategies that you have heard, one thing that you can implement in your business immediately. Please leave comments. Don't forget to like and share this show. And if you have any questions about business, please put them in the comments. We are here for you. We're here to support you and help you to grow, build, and scale your own business. For more advice, please check out our website in the show notes below. Thank you again. This is Beate Chelette, the Growth Architect, and goodbye.